A parent turned her phone toward me. Parents are sharing this now. That post would end something she depended on. No one moved after that. Not her. Not me. The kids kept running past us, backpacks bouncing, but the adults froze. The screen was bright in the afternoon light. White background, black text, a profile photo I recognized without needing to see the name, her smile. The same one she used in every picture, chin tilted, eyes narrowed just enough to look confident. I didn't take the phone. I didn't lean in. The parent's arm stayed extended between us, elbow locked, like she was holding evidence instead of a device. I could hear someone behind us clear their throat. Another parent shifted their weight. A car door slammed down the row. No one said anything else. I stood there with my keys in my hand, the metal biting into my palm. I'd been about to unlock my car. I remembered that clearly. The motion stopped halfway, like my body forgot the rest of the steps. The comment was short. It didn't need to be long. Something about people who can't move on. Something about playing the victim. No names, no tags. Just enough for everyone who mattered to know who it was about. The parent finally pulled her phone back and looked at me, waiting. Not for a reaction, for confirmation. I nodded once. She exhaled, sharp and quiet, like she'd been holding her breath longer than I realized. "I thought so," she said, then glanced toward the school doors. A few feet away, another parent was already typing on her phone. Thumbs fast, screen angled away, but not enough. A notification popped up, then another. I looked past them to where my daughter stood near the fence, crouched down to zip her jacket. She didn't look up. She was focused on the zipper, tugging at it with both hands, frustrated. I took a step toward her. Behind me, someone said my name. Soft. Like they weren't sure they should. I didn't turn around. I walked to my daughter, knelt, and fixed the zipper myself. My hands were steady. That surprised me. The metal slid up cleanly. She smiled, quick, then ran ahead toward the car without asking questions. When I stood up, the pickup line felt different, tighter, like the air had changed density. I could feel eyes on my back as I walked, not staring, watching. By the time I reached my car, my phone was buzzing in my pocket. I didn't check it. I opened the door, waited for my daughter to climb in, then closed it carefully. Too carefully. I stood there with my hand on the door for a second longer than necessary. Across the lot, I saw my ex's car. Same model, same color. He hadn't changed that. The new wife wasn't there. She rarely came to pick up. She preferred to post about it later. I got in, started the engine, and pulled out. At the first red light, my phone buzzed again, then again. The sound stacked, short vibrations back to back, like something trying to get my attention urgently. I stared straight ahead. A notification banner lit up my screen anyway, just the top line. Did you see what she posted? I flipped the phone face down on the passenger seat. At home, I went through the routine like muscle memory was driving instead of me. Shoes by the door, backpack on the hook, snack plate on the counter, apple slices, peanut butter, the same as always. My daughter talked about her day, a spelling test, a kid who cried during math, a teacher who wore mismatched socks on purpose. I nodded in the right places. When she finished eating, she carried her plate to the sink and asked if she could watch a show. I said yes. She disappeared into the living room, volume low like she'd been taught. Only then did I pick up my phone. 23 notifications. Texts. DMs. Missed calls. I opened the screenshot first, the same one I'd seen in the parking lot, cropped tighter, sharper. Someone had underlined the sentence with a digital marker. Another had circled the profile picture. I scrolled without reading everything. Names jumped out. Parents, mutual friends. One aunt on my ex's side who never liked me. The comment itself was gone when I clicked through to the original post, deleted, clean, like it had never been there. But the screenshots kept multiplying. I set the phone down on the counter and leaned both hands against the edge, staring at the tile. The grout line had cracked near the corner. I made a mental note to fix it, the way I always did when something felt out of control. The phone buzzed again. This time, it was my ex. I let it ring. When it stopped, I didn't feel relief. just a heavier kind of quiet. A message came through instead. She didn't mean it like that. I read it once. Then again. I didn't reply. A few minutes later, another message. She already took it down. I left the phone where it was and went to check on my daughter. She was curled up on the couch, blanket tucked under her chin, eyes on the screen. She didn't notice me standing there. Back in the kitchen, I picked up the phone and opened the parent group chat for the first time. The last message sat at the bottom. This is being talked about. Just so everyone knows, no one replied to that yet. I locked the screen and slid the phone into a drawer with the junk mail and spare batteries. Closed it. Outside, a car slowed as it passed my house. Too slow. I watched through the window as it continued down the street. I didn't know who had it now, how far it had gone, or where it would show up next. I only knew it wasn't staying online, and it wasn't done. By the next morning, the comment was gone everywhere it had originally lived. Instagram, Facebook, even the story highlight she'd pinned overnight was wiped clean. No apology, no clarification, just absence, like it had never existed. But the screenshots were still alive. I found that out standing in my kitchen, coffee going cold in my hand, watching my phone light up without touching it. Every few minutes, the screen woke itself, a name, a preview line, sometimes just an emoji someone didn't know what else to use. I set the mug down on the counter and pushed the phone away with 2 fingers. The house felt louder than usual. The refrigerator hummed. The clock over the stove ticked too fast. I opened the window an inch, even though it was cold, just to let something move. At 9:15, my ex called again. I didn't answer. At 9:17, a message came through. She panicked. She didn't think people would take it that way. I read it once. Then I scrolled up to make sure there wasn't more. There wasn't. I locked the screen. 10 minutes later, another message. Can we talk later? I put the phone face down and left it on the counter when I went to get dressed. In the bathroom mirror, I noticed a crease between my eyebrows I didn't remember earning. I smoothed it with my thumb like that would help. When I dropped my daughter off at school, the parking lot felt different than it had the day before. Parents nodded, polite but distracted. Conversation stopped half a second too late when I walked past. I held my daughter's hand all the way to the gate. She didn't pull away. She didn't ask questions either. At work, I made it through 2 meetings before someone finally said it out loud. "I saw something about you online," a coworker murmured as we stood near the printer. She didn't look at me when she said it. She focused on the paper tray, sliding it back into place like precision mattered. I nodded once. Same as yesterday. She hesitated. "If you need anything..." "I'm fine," I said. She smiled, relieved by the clean answer, and walked away. At lunch, I checked my phone for the first time since morning. There were new screenshots I hadn't seen yet. Same comment, different crops. One had a circle drawn around a phrase. Another had a timestamp highlighted. Someone had added a caption. She deleted it, but this was wild. I didn't react. I saved them all to a folder without renaming anything. The phone felt heavier with each tap. At 2:30, my ex emailed me. Not texted. Emailed. The subject line read, "Misunderstanding." I didn't open it right away. I waited until I was home again, sitting at the kitchen table with the mail spread out in front of me. Bills. A school flyer. A coupon I didn't need. I clicked the email. It was longer than the messages. Carefully written. Words chosen to sound reasonable. He said she hadn't meant me. He said people were reading too much into it. He said deleting it proved she understood it went too far. He said he hoped we could all reset. I read it twice. Then I closed the laptop without replying. At 4:45, my phone buzzed again. A new number this time. "Hey, it's Melissa from the pickup line." I stared at the message, trying to place her face. Brown coat, glasses, twin boys in 2nd grade. "Just wanted to let you know people are still talking. Not in a bad way. Just aware." I typed thanks and erased it. Typed I appreciate it and erased that too. I didn't send anything. Instead, I went to the drawer where I'd put my phone the night before and took out the screenshots again. I compared timestamps, the original post, the deletion, the first repost in the parent group chat. 14 minutes. That was how long it had been up. Long enough. At 6, my ex showed up at my door. I saw his car pull in before he knocked. Same slow roll into the driveway. Same hesitation before turning off the engine. I didn't open the door right away. When I did, he was already mid-sentence. "This got out of hand," he said, hands raised like he was calming a situation instead of entering one. I stood in the doorway and didn't step aside. "She's embarrassed," he continued. "She feels awful." I waited. "She took it down," he added, like that settled something. I nodded once. "Same motion. Same restraint. We're dealing with enough already," he said. "We don't need this turning into something bigger." I looked past him to his car. The back seat was empty. No booster seat. No sign he planned to stay long. "This doesn't have to be a thing," he said. I opened the door wider, then not to invite him in, but to make space between us. He stopped talking. Behind me, my daughter's show ended with its usual jingle. She called my name from the living room, asking for water. "I have to go," I said. He frowned. "So you're not going to say anything?" I shook my head. "Not even to clear it up?" I closed the door gently. Not slammed, just firm. That night, another screenshot appeared. This one from a different group. Same comment. New caption. Why would she post this if it wasn't about her? I didn't respond. I didn't forward it. I didn't explain. I added it to the folder. When I went to bed, my phone stayed on the dresser, screen dark. I lay there listening to the house settle, the pipes clicking, the wind brushing the siding. Somewhere else, someone was still sharing it. And tomorrow, I was supposed to pick my daughter up from school again. The next afternoon, I parked a block away from the school. I told myself it was about the traffic. Construction on the corner. Fewer cars idling. Easier exit. But I still waited in my car until the last bell rang. From that distance, I could hear it faintly. The bell. Then the rush of sound that followed doors opening, kids shouting names, backpacks thudding against legs. I checked the time on the dashboard. 3:12. I got out and walked the rest of the way. Keys looped through my fingers instead of clenched. I forced my pace to stay even. Not rushed, not hesitant. The pickup line was already forming when I reached the gate. Parents in loose clusters, phones out, some talking, some not. A woman I barely knew nodded at me and then looked down at her screen too fast. Another smiled and asked about the weather like nothing had happened. I answered with a sentence that didn't invite more. When my daughter spotted me, she waved. Same as always. That small, familiar motion loosened something in my chest. She ran over and slid her hand into mine without slowing down. We stood there for a moment, waiting for the crossing guard to signal. Behind us, I heard my name again. This time, I turned. It was a dad from my daughter's class. Tall. Usually loud. Today, careful. "Hey," he said, "just wanted to say people know." I didn't ask what he meant. He shifted his weight, scratched his jaw. "Not everything you hear is being believed." I nodded once. The signal flashed. We crossed. As we walked away, my daughter squeezed my hand. Not hard, just enough to remind me she was there. At home, she dropped her backpack by the door and went straight to the table. Homework first. That was her rule. I poured juice into a cup and set it next to her without asking. She took a sip, then stopped. "Why do people keep looking at you?" she asked, eyes still on her worksheet. The question landed quietly. No accusation, just curiosity. I picked up a pen from the counter and clicked it once before answering. "Sometimes adults talk too much," I said. She accepted that. Bent back over her work. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a group message I wasn't part of. A screenshot forwarded by someone who shouldn't have had it yet. I recognized the header. A parents' chat organized around a birthday party next month, one I hadn't RSVP'd to. The caption read, "Is this about her?" I didn't respond. I didn't ask who sent it. I saved it. That evening, a message came from the school. Not about the comment. Not directly. A reminder about an upcoming parent meeting. Attendance encouraged. Topics listed below. I stared at the email longer than necessary. The words felt heavier than they should have. In the mirror by the door, I adjusted my jacket and noticed my shoulders were raised, tense. I dropped them deliberately. At 7:30, my ex called again. I let it go to voicemail. He left one this time. "Can we please talk before this turns into something at the school?" he said. His voice was lower than usual, controlled. "I'm asking you." I deleted it without replaying. Later, after my daughter was asleep, I opened the folder again. The screenshots filled the screen in a grid. Same comment, different angles, different hands passing it along. One stood out. A repost with a note underneath. "She's acting like she didn't see it." I locked the phone and set it face down. In the quiet of the living room, the clock ticked. I sat on the couch without turning on the TV, hands folded in my lap, breathing slow. I wasn't acting. I was waiting, because the meeting email was still sitting in my inbox, and this time it had my name on the attendee list. The first invitation disappeared without a word. I noticed it when I opened my calendar that morning. The birthday party reminder was gone, not declined, not changed, just erased, like it had never been sent. I stood in my kitchen with my phone in my hand, thumb hovering over the screen, scrolling back through messages to make sure I hadn't imagined it. The thread was still there. The address. The date. The cheerful balloon emoji. But the event itself was missing. I locked the phone and set it down next to my keys. At school pickup that afternoon, the parking lot felt looser, less crowded. I recognized fewer faces. People who normally stood near me had shifted a few yards away, forming new clusters that didn't include my name. It wasn't hostile. It was careful. I waited near the fence, hands in my coat pockets, watching parents greet each other. Laughter bubbled up and died down quickly when I got close. Conversations rerouted. My daughter came out smiling, backpack bouncing. She ran straight to me like she always did. Behind her, I saw her father. He was standing near the flagpole, phone pressed to his ear, body angled away from the crowd. The new wife wasn't there. She never was when things got uncomfortable. He saw me watching and lowered the phone. We made eye contact for a second longer than usual. Then he looked away first. In the car, my daughter talked about art class and how they ran out of blue paint. I nodded at the right moments, eyes on the road. At a red light, my phone buzzed. A message from a mutual friend, one we used to see every weekend when we were still married. She posted again, the message said. I didn't open it right away. When I did, it wasn't a comment this time. It was a story, already expired by the time the screenshot reached me. White background, black text, no names. Funny how some people rewrite history when they don't get their way. Underneath, a poll. Agree more. I stared at it until the light turned green and the car behind me honked. At home, I set my phone on the counter and didn't touch it while I helped with homework, made dinner, packed lunches for the next day. The routine held. Barely. After my daughter went to bed, I sat at the table and opened the parent group chat I'd been avoiding. New messages had piled up. Some neutral, some sympathetic, some quiet. One message stopped me. This needs to stop. The kids are watching. It had been sent by someone I trusted. Someone who knew both sides. Below it, no replies. I didn't type anything. Instead, I scrolled back. The first screenshot appeared again, posted by someone who hadn't been at pickup. Then another. Then the story poll. The pattern was clear when I saw it laid out like that. Not emotional, just chronological. I took screenshots of the screenshots. Saved them with the date and time visible. Lined them up in order. At 8:47, my ex emailed again. Subject line, please. I didn't open it. At 9, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it ring. A voicemail came through seconds later. This is Karen from the PTA, the message said. Her voice was tight. Professional. We've had some concerns raised. I'd like to speak with you before the meeting tomorrow. Tomorrow. I set the phone down and leaned back in my chair. The wood creaked under my weight. On the fridge, a permission slip was held up by a magnet shaped like a ladybug. I reached up and straightened it, even though it wasn't crooked. In the living room, the TV screen reflected my outline in the dark. Still, waiting. I didn't know what Karen wanted to ask. I didn't know what version of the story she'd heard. But the meeting was no longer optional. And this time, the screenshots weren't just circulating. They were being scheduled. The meeting was scheduled for Tuesday at 4:30. That time sat in my head all morning, ticking louder than the clock in my kitchen. 4:30 meant pickup would be tight. It meant my daughter would need to wait in the office. It meant witnesses. I didn't move it. I didn't ask to. At 11, a message came from the mutual friend again. She's saying you're dragging this out on purpose. I read it once and locked the screen. At noon, another screenshot arrived. This one was different. Same story format, same font. But the background was a photo this time. A table set for brunch, mimosas. A caption at the bottom. Some people can't stand being excluded. No names, no tags, but the timing lined up exactly with the missing invitation. I saved it and put my phone away. At pickup, the office secretary waved me inside before I reached the gate. "We're just going to hold her here today," she said, smiling like it was routine. "You have the meeting." End quote. I nodded and signed the clipboard. The pen felt lighter than it should have. My daughter sat in a chair by the wall, swinging her legs. When she saw me, she hopped down and grabbed her backpack. "Do I have to stay here long?" she asked. "Just a little," I said. "I'll be right back." She frowned but nodded. In the hallway, the counselor was already waiting. She didn't lead me to a classroom. She led me to the conference room near the front office. The door was open. Inside, Karen from the PTA sat at the table with a folder in front of her. The principal was there too. He stood when I walked in, then sat back down slowly. No one smiled. "Thank you for coming," Karen said, folding her hands. I took the chair closest to the door. She slid the folder an inch toward the center of the table, but didn't open it. "We've received several messages," she said, "from parents." I nodded. "They're concerned about online behavior," the principal added. His voice was careful, neutral. Karen looked at me, specifically about a comment and subsequent posts. I didn't speak. She hesitated, then opened the folder. Inside were printouts. Not everything, just enough. The original comment. Cropped, timestamp visible, username circled in blue pen. A story screenshot. The poll. The brunch photo. Karen tapped the page with her finger. "This is being discussed among parents." I nodded again. "We want to make sure," the principal said, "that this doesn't escalate into something that affects the kids." Karen leaned forward. "Can you tell us what happened?" I looked at the papers. At the clean edges. The printer ink still dark. "I saw it," I said. That was all. Karen waited. The silence stretched. "And?" she prompted. I shook my head. The principal cleared his throat. "Are you saying you didn't engage?" I nodded. Karen flipped to the next page. "There are claims that this was misunderstood." I didn't respond. She closed the folder slowly. "We reached out to your ex and his wife as well." I felt the shift then. Not in my chest. In the room. "They declined to attend," she said. The principal glanced at Karen, then back at me. "They did send a statement." Karen slid a single page out of the folder and placed it in front of me. I didn't touch it. She read from it instead. It says the post wasn't directed at anyone specific, that it was removed quickly, that the continued circulation is unnecessary. She looked up. "Do you agree?" I kept my hands folded in my lap. "I'm not circulating anything," I said. Karen's mouth tightened. "But you're not correcting it either." I didn't answer. The principal leaned back in his chair. The wood creaked. "We're trying to prevent disruption," he said. "I understand," I replied. Karen studied me for a moment. "Would you be willing to ask people to stop sharing?" "No," I said. The word landed cleanly. No edge, no explanation. Silence followed. Karen closed the folder completely. "Then we'll need to document this." I nodded. The principal wrote something on a notepad. Didn't show me. "Thank you for your time," Karen said, standing. I stood too. In the hallway, my daughter was still in the chair, feet swinging. She smiled when she saw me. "Can we go now?" she asked. "Yes," I said. As we walked out, Karen's door opened behind us. "Just so you know," she said, not unkindly, "this will likely come up again." I nodded without turning around. At home, my phone buzzed before I even set my bag down. A new message. From the new wife. The first one. "Why are you doing this?" I stared at the screen. Typed nothing. A second message followed. This could have stayed private. I didn't reply. A third. People are making assumptions. I turned the phone face down and slid it across the counter until it hit the wall. That evening, an email arrived from the school. Subject: follow-up. I didn't open it right away. Outside, a car slowed in front of my house again. Different one this time. I watched it pass. When I finally opened the email, it wasn't addressed just to me. It included another name, her name, and a time. The email listed Thursday at 3. Same conference room. Same building. Different line beneath the time. Attendees: you, ex's name, new wife's name, school administration. I read it once. Then again. My daughter was at the table coloring, tongue tucked into the corner of her mouth the way she did when she concentrated. I closed the laptop quietly so she wouldn't hear the hinge click. Thursday meant 2 days. 2 more pickups. 2 more chances for something to surface. That night, I didn't sleep well. Not because I was anxious, because my phone wouldn't stop lighting up on the dresser. Face down, silent, still alive. In the morning, I left it there when I took my daughter to school. The parking lot was already busy when we arrived. A delivery truck idled near the curb. A group of parents stood closer together than usual, heads bent, phones angled inward like a shared secret. I kept my eyes on the crosswalk signal. As we waited, I noticed her car, the new wife's, parked 2 rows closer than my ex usually went. Clean. Washed recently. The back window still had a dealer sticker on it she hadn't bothered to remove. She wasn't inside. My daughter tugged my sleeve. "That's Dad's car," she said. "I know," I replied. We crossed when the light changed. At the gate, a parent stepped slightly in front of me, blocking my path for half a second too long. She smiled, apologized, then leaned in. "They're saying there's another meeting," she whispered. "With everyone." I nodded once. "Just thought you should know," she added. I didn't ask who they were. Inside the school, the office secretary smiled too brightly and handed me a visitor sticker I didn't ask for. "Just in case," she said. I pressed it onto my jacket and walked out. At work, I got through the morning by doing everything manually. No shortcuts, no multitasking. Every email answered in order. Every file saved twice. At 11, a message came through from the new wife again. "We need to talk before Thursday." I didn't respond. 10 minutes later. "This is getting blown out of proportion." I left it unread. At lunch, my ex called. I watched the phone vibrate on the table between me and my sandwich. When it stopped, an email arrived. Subject: "Let's fix this." I didn't open it. By the time pickup came around, the air felt charged, like a storm waiting to decide where to land. I parked in my usual spot this time. No hiding. When I stepped out of the car, I saw her immediately. The new wife stood near the gate, phone in her hand, sunglasses pushed up on her head. She was laughing with 2 parents I recognized. One of them glanced at me and then looked away too quickly. She followed her gaze. Our eyes met. She didn't smile. She walked toward me instead. I stayed where I was. She stopped a few feet away, close enough that other parents slowed, pretending to check their phones. "This is ridiculous," she said, voice low. Controlled. "You know that." I didn't answer. "You could have shut this down," she continued. "You chose not to." I adjusted the strap of my bag on my shoulder. She laughed once, sharp. "You're really going to sit there and let people think I'm some kind of—" She stopped herself when a teacher walked past. I looked at the gate. "Say something," she pressed. I didn't. Her face flushed. "Not dramatic. Just enough. You always do this," she said. "You act like silence makes you right." The bell rang then. Kids spilled out, noise cutting through her words. My daughter ran toward me, slid into my side like she always did. The new wife took a step back. "Unbelievable," she muttered. I took my daughter's hand and walked away. Behind us, I heard someone say her name. Not kindly. At home, I found another email waiting. This one wasn't from the school. It was from the event organizer of the charity fundraiser scheduled for the weekend. Subject: "Regarding conduct." I opened it. They thanked me for my support, then explained, carefully, that due to recent online activity involving multiple attendees, they were reviewing participation guidelines. They asked if I would be willing to speak briefly with them before the event. I closed the email. An hour later, another message arrived, from the organizer again. This one included the new wife, and my ex, and the phrase, printed materials. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. The fan spun slowly, clicking on every third rotation. That night, I laid out clothes for Thursday. Not anything special. Just clean, neutral, comfortable. I placed my phone on the dresser and turned it off completely. The next morning, a printed envelope was taped to my door. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a screenshot, the original comment, but this one had something new at the bottom. A timestamp from a different platform, earlier than the one I'd saved. I sat down on the floor with my back against the door and held the paper in my hands. It wasn't new evidence. It was confirmation. And it meant Thursday wouldn't be the first time it was read out loud. Thursday afternoon, the parking lot was full before 3. Not just parents. Volunteers. A couple of people I recognized from the fundraiser committee. Cars circling, waiting for spots like it was an event, not a meeting. I parked where I always did. When I stepped out, the air felt thicker, humid, even though the weather hadn't changed. Inside the building, the office secretary didn't offer a sticker this time. She just pointed down the hall. "They're already in there," she said. I nodded and walked past her desk. The conference room door was closed. I paused with my hand on the handle, not because I needed a moment, because I could hear voices through the door. Low, controlled, not friendly. I opened it. Everyone turned at once. My ex sat on one side of the table, hands folded, jaw tight. The new wife sat next to him, legs crossed, phone face down in front of her like it was on trial too. Karen from the PTA was there, the principal, and 2 other parents I didn't expect to see. One of them held a folder. I took the empty chair closest to the door and sat down without greeting anyone. Karen cleared her throat. "Thank you all for coming." No one responded. She gestured to the folder. "We asked a few parents to attend because the situation has moved beyond private concern." The woman with the folder opened it. Inside were printed screenshots. More than I'd seen before. She slid one into the center of the table. It was the comment. The original. Same wording. Same profile picture. But the timestamp was different. Earlier. This version, the woman said, was shared in a private group before it was posted publicly. The new wife leaned forward. "That's not." Karen raised a hand. "Please," the woman continued. "Several parents received this before pickup that day." She placed another page down, a repost, with a caption. "Watch this unfold." My ex shifted in his chair. The principal spoke next. "We're not here to determine intent." End quote. The new wife laughed under her breath. "Of course not. We're here," he continued, "to address the impact." He looked at me. "And to ask if you have anything you'd like to add." Every eye turned. I didn't move. Karen waited. "Anything at all?" I shook my head. The silence didn't break the way they expected. It stretched, thickened. The woman with the folder slid one more page forward. This one wasn't a screenshot. It was a printed email from the fundraiser organizer. Subject line visible. Regarding conduct. She read it aloud, not dramatically, just clearly. The email explained that due to repeated online behavior affecting attendees, participation would be reviewed, that printed materials had already circulated, that reputational concerns were now documented. The new wife sat back hard in her chair. "This is insane," she said. She didn't even say anything. Karen looked at her. "That's correct." The new wife blinked. "Then why is this happening?" Karen didn't answer. Instead, she turned to me again. "Do you deny that these posts were made?" I looked at the paper, at the ink, at the timestamp. "No," I said. "Do you deny they were about you?" Karen asked. I met her eyes. They were written by her. The room went quiet again. My ex opened his mouth, then closed it. The principal folded his hands. "We need to be clear," he said. "Continued behavior like this affects school climate." "It's really Margaret not from this video." The new wife leaned forward. So what? I'm being punished because she won't defend herself? No one corrected her. Karen closed the folder. Here's what will happen, she said. This will be documented. Any further posts will escalate this to district level. The new wife's face drained of color. And regarding the fundraiser, Karen added, the committee has decided to pause your involvement this year. What? She said. It's temporary, Karen replied, but effective immediately. To have an rail braid. My ex stared at the table. I stood up. Every head snapped toward me. I need to pick up my daughter, I said. No one stopped me. In the hallway, the noise from pickup filtered in. Shoes on tile, voices echoing. I signed her out at the office. The secretary avoided my eyes this time. As we walked to the car, my phone buzzed for the first time that day. I didn't look. Behind us, someone was crying, quietly, angry tears. I opened the car door for my daughter and buckled her in. When I got in myself, I checked my phone. A single message from the new wife. You won. I deleted it. The fundraiser was Saturday. And apparently, so was the fallout. Saturday morning arrived without ceremony. No notification, no reminder, just the quiet knowledge that something was supposed to happen that day and someone had already decided it wouldn't include her. I dropped my daughter off at a birthday party across town just after 10. Different school, different parents. No overlap. I stayed long enough to sign the card and make eye contact with the host, then left before conversation could form. On the drive home, my phone buzzed twice. I ignored it. When I pulled into my driveway, a flyer was taped to my mailbox. White paper, clean print. The fundraiser logo at the top. Volunteer schedule updated. I peeled it off slowly. Her name was missing. So was my ex's. I stood there longer than necessary, reading the rest of the list. People I knew, people I didn't. Roles assigned, times blocked out, everything neat. Inside, I set the flyer on the counter and poured myself a glass of water I didn't drink. The house felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. At 11:30, my ex called. I let it ring. He left a voicemail. This has gone far enough, he said. No greeting, no name. She's devastated. People are talking. This wasn't supposed to. He stopped, then started again. You need to tell them it wasn't intentional. When 7 of grade 9, I deleted it. 10 minutes later, an email arrived from the fundraiser organizer. Subject, thank you. They thanked me for my understanding during the review process. Explained that the committee was committed to maintaining a respectful environment. Reiterated that printed materials would not be displayed at the event. I read the last line twice. We appreciate your discretion. I closed the email. At noon, a mutual friend texted. She left early. I didn't ask from where. Another message followed. She was crying in the parking lot. I set the phone down and wiped the counter, even though it was already clean. At 1, I picked up my daughter. She climbed into the car with frosting on her sleeve and a balloon in her hand. Can we go to the park? She asked. Yes, I said. At the park, I sat on the bench and watched her climb the ladder to the slide. Parents chatted nearby. A dog barked. Someone laughed too loud. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a group chat message forwarded by someone I trusted. A photo. The fundraiser entrance. A sign taped to the welcome table. Please refrain from sharing or displaying online content related to attendees. I stared at it until my screen dimmed. That sign hadn't been there last year. On the bench beside me, a woman I recognized from pickup sat down. She glanced at my phone, then away. They're being careful now, she said, not unkindly. I nodded. They should have been before, she added, then stood and walked toward her kid. At 3:45, the new wife messaged again. I hope you're happy. I didn't respond. 5 minutes later, this ruined everything we worked for. I didn't respond. At 4, another message appeared. They asked me to step back from the committee permanently. I stared at that one longer. Not because I felt anything about it, because it confirmed the language Karen had used. Paused this year, which meant reviewed, which meant recorded. I turned the phone face down on the bench. When we got home, my daughter ran inside and dropped her balloon by the couch. It rolled under the coffee table and stopped. I didn't retrieve it. That evening, as the sun went down, I heard a car idle outside my house. I watched from the window. It was my ex. He sat there with the engine running for a full minute before turning it off. He didn't get out. He didn't text. After another minute, he pulled away. I didn't move. Later that night, I opened my laptop for the first time all day. There was a new email from the school district, not addressed to me directly. A general notice regarding community conduct. It outlined expectations, procedures, escalation steps, reporting channels. I scrolled. At the bottom, a line caught my eye. Recent incidents have prompted this reminder. I closed the laptop. In the kitchen, the flyer still sat on the counter. I folded it in half, then again, and slid it into the same drawer as the screenshots. Outside, somewhere across town, the fundraiser was ending. Lights turning off, tables folding, people going home. I stood at the sink and rinsed my glass, watching the water run clear. Whatever she had meant to start online hadn't stayed there, and whatever came next wasn't going to be loud. It was already being written down. Monday morning, the email arrived at 7:12 a.m. Not dramatic, not urgent looking. Just a subject line that read, "Documentation attached." It came from the school district office. Not the PTA, not Karen. A different domain entirely. I didn't open it right away. I packed my daughter's lunch first. Turkey sandwich, apple, the cookie she liked broken in half so it felt like more. I zipped the bag and set it by the door. Only then did I sit down at the kitchen table and open the email. There were 3 attachments. PDFs. The first was a summary. Dates. Times. Platforms. Neutral language. No opinions, just facts arranged in a column. The second was a record of complaints. Redacted names. Repeated phrasing. Online conduct affecting community environment. The third was labeled Appendix. I opened that one last. It was everything. Every screenshot I'd seen. And some I hadn't. The original comment. The private repost. The story poll. The brunch photo. The earlier timestamp I'd received on paper. All of it compiled, labeled, indexed. I scrolled slowly. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I recognized the formatting. This wasn't gossip anymore. This was a file. At the bottom, a note. No response required at this time. I closed my laptop and exhaled through my nose. At pickup that afternoon, things felt quieter. Not tense, managed. Parents chatted about weekend plans, sports schedules, normal things. When I walked up, conversations didn't stop anymore. They simply adjusted. The new wife wasn't there. My ex stood alone near the fence, hands in his pockets. He looked tired, not angry, not defensive, just smaller somehow. He didn't approach me. When our daughter came out, she waved at him, then ran to me first. After a moment's hesitation, she went over to him too. He bent down and hugged her, holding on a beat too long. I watched without moving. At home, my phone buzzed once. A message from an unfamiliar number. "This is Mark from the district office. Just confirming you received the documentation." I typed yes and sent it. Nothing else. A few minutes later, my ex emailed. Subject, "We need to talk." I didn't open it. That evening, another email came through. This one from the fundraiser committee. Subject, "Final decision." They explained that the pause in involvement had been extended, that future participation would require review, that the decision was unanimous. I closed the email and placed my phone face down. Later, after my daughter was asleep, I took the folder out of the drawer. Screenshots on one side, printed flyer on the other. Now the district PDFs, freshly printed, still warm from the printer. I stacked them neatly. Then I slid the folder into my bag and zipped it closed. The next morning, I didn't take it out. I didn't need to. At pickup, I noticed a small sign taped near the gate. "Please keep online disputes off school grounds." It was new. I stood beneath it, keys in my hand, and waited. No one looked at me. No one needed to. Across the lot, the new wife's car drove past without slowing. She didn't park. She didn't wave. She didn't look my way at all. I watched until the car turned the corner and disappeared. My phone buzzed once more. A final message from her. This didn't have to happen. I didn't reply. I didn't save it. I deleted it and put the phone back in my pocket. Because everything that mattered was already documented. And whatever came next wouldn't arrive as a message. It would arrive as procedure. The shift didn't happen loudly. It happened in small, administrative ways that stacked on top of each other until there was no room left for interpretation. On Wednesday morning, a notice went up on the school website, buried under announcements about picture day and lunch menus. Community reminder. Online conduct. I didn't click it. I didn't need to. By Thursday, parents had stopped mentioning the incident altogether, not because it was forgotten, because it had been filed. At pickup, the gate opened and closed on schedule. Names were called. Kids poured out. No whispers followed me anymore. The new wife still didn't come. My ex stood near the edge of the lot, phone in hand, scrolling without reading. When our daughter ran to him first this time, he smiled too quickly. When she ran back to me after, his smile faded. I watched it happen without stepping in. At work, my supervisor asked me into her office. "Nothing bad," she said immediately, motioning for me to sit. "I just wanted to give you a heads up." She slid a printed email across her desk. It wasn't addressed to me or her. It was a general advisory from a professional association we both belonged to, about maintaining personal boundaries in public forums, about reputational spillover. "I didn't think it applied to you," she said. "But since your name came up in conversation," I nodded. "No action required," she finished. "Just documentation." That word again. I thanked her and went back to my desk. At lunch, my phone buzzed with a calendar notification I hadn't added. District review meeting attendance required. The attendees listed were the same as before, +1. A district compliance officer. I didn't forward it. I didn't acknowledge it. That afternoon, a message came from Karen. "We'll be reviewing patterns tomorrow, just so you're aware." I replied with a single word. "Okay." At home, my daughter spread her homework across the table, humming softly. I poured milk into her glass and wiped a smudge from the counter with my sleeve. "Why doesn't Dad's wife come anymore?" she asked suddenly. I paused with the glass halfway down. "She's busy," I said. That satisfied her. She went back to coloring. The meeting took place the next day at noon. Same room. Different atmosphere. The compliance officer sat at the head of the table, a man I'd never met before. Neutral suit, no school logo. He opened a folder thicker than the one Karen used to carry. "We're here to review a pattern of online behavior," he said. "Not a single incident." He didn't look at me when he said it. He didn't look at her either. He read dates, platforms, screenshots referenced by number, language flagged, impact noted. The new wife interrupted twice. Each time, he raised a hand. "We'll get to responses later," he said. Calm. Final. When he finished, he closed the folder and looked up. "Based on this record," he said, "there will be restrictions." He slid a page across the table. It listed them plainly. No volunteer roles tied to the school. No committee participation. No presence at events outside standard pickup and drop-off. Temporary. Subject to review. My ex's face went slack. The new wife stared at the page, mouth slightly open. "This is absurd," she said. "I didn't even—" The compliance officer stood. "This concludes the review," he said. No one stopped him. In the hallway, the secretary avoided everyone's eyes. I picked up my daughter early that day. She ran to me, smiling, backpack dragging behind her. On the way home, my phone buzzed once. A message from my ex. "Can we talk now?" I didn't answer. That evening, another email arrived. From the district office again. Subject. Outcome. It summarized the restrictions, included timelines, included appeal language. No commentary. I printed it and placed it in the folder. Later, as I tucked my daughter into bed, she asked if she could invite friends over this weekend. "Yes," I said. "Can Dad come?" she asked. "Of course," I replied. She smiled and rolled onto her side. In the kitchen, I heard a car slow outside my house. I didn't go to the window this time. I knew who it was, and I knew he wasn't getting out. The next public moment didn't announce itself. It arrived folded into routine. Friday afternoon pickup ran late. A substitute teacher stood by the gate, clipboard in hand, calling names more slowly than usual. Parents shifted, checked watches, sighed. I stood in my usual spot. Across the lot, the new wife's car pulled in. That was new. She parked farther away than she used to. Not near the gate, not near the office. She stepped out, sunglasses on, chin high, posture tight. A few parents noticed. Heads turned, then turned away. She walked toward the gate and stopped when she saw the sign posted beside it. Authorized adults only beyond this point. Underneath, a smaller notice. Event and volunteer restrictions apply. She stared at it for a full second. Then she looked around, like she expected someone to clarify. No one did. She approached the substitute teacher anyway. "I'm here for pickup," she said, voice controlled. She named my daughter. The teacher checked the clipboard, paused, then shook her head. "I'm sorry, I don't have you listed." The new wife laughed once, sharp. "That's not possible." The teacher turned the clipboard so she could see. Names were highlighted, some circled, some crossed out. "I can only release to approved contacts," the teacher said, not unkindly, just firm. "I'm her stepmother," the new wife said, louder now. The teacher nodded. "I understand, but I still need authorization." She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and started scrolling. "Her father knows I'm here." "I'm sure," the teacher replied, "but I still can't release her to you." People were watching now, not staring, but aware. A dad 2 feet away pretended to retie his shoe. A mom checked her email too carefully. The new wife's face flushed. "Can you call the office?" she asked. "I already did," the teacher said. They confirmed what wasn't said. My daughter's name was called next. She ran to me, backpack bouncing, smile easy. I took her hand. The new wife watched us pass. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Behind her, my ex jogged across the lot, breathless. He stopped short when he saw us together. "What's going on?" he asked her. "They wouldn't let me," she started. He turned to the teacher. "I authorized her." The teacher shook her head again. "We have updated restrictions." End quote. End quote. My ex looked confused, then concerned, then something else. The teacher lowered her voice. "You were notified." He stopped talking. Silence settled around the group like dust. "I'll handle it," he said finally, too quickly. He reached for my daughter, who hugged him back. He kissed the top of her head, then stepped aside so we could leave. The new wife stood there, arms crossed, phone clenched in her hand. As we walked away, I heard someone whisper her name, not with sympathy. At home, my phone buzzed as soon as I set my bag down. A message from her. This was intentional. I didn't respond. Another came through. "You knew this would happen." I didn't open it. Then a third. "You let them humiliate me." I deleted all 3. An hour later, an email arrived from the district office. Subject: Pickup Protocol Clarification. It outlined release rules, authorization lists, temporary restrictions, no names, no explanations, just policy. That evening, my ex showed up at my door again. This time, he knocked. I opened it but didn't step aside. "She didn't know," he said immediately. "They didn't tell her." I nodded. "You could have warned us," he added. I waited. "She was embarrassed," he said, "in front of everyone." I looked past him to his car. Engine off. Door closed. "She's asking me why you hate her," he said quietly. I met his eyes for the first time that day. "I don't," I said. He swallowed. I stopped explaining, I added. He didn't respond. Behind me, my daughter called my name, asking for help with her shoes. "I have to go," I said. He stepped back. As I closed the door, I heard him exhale, long and heavy, like something had finally landed. That night, I scrolled through my phone one last time. No new messages. No new screenshots. Just silence. And the quiet knowledge that the rules were now visible to everyone. Monday morning, the pickup line moved like clockwork. Cars rolled forward. Names were called. Kids ran. Parents waited. I stood where I always did, keys resting in my palm instead of clenched. The sign by the gate was still there, Laminated now, permanent, authorized adults only. No one questioned it anymore. My daughter came out smiling, shoes untied, backpack half-zipped. She ran straight to me and bumped into my legs like she always had. I bent down, fixed the laces, tugged the zipper closed. Behind us, my ex stood alone. No new wife, no hovering, just him, hands in his pockets, watching the routine happen without commentary. He nodded once when our eyes met. I nodded back. At home, the mail was already on the counter. Bills, a catalog, one plain envelope with the school district logo in the corner. I opened it standing up. Inside was a single page. Review period concluded. It listed dates. Compliance noted. Restrictions adjusted. One line stood out. No further action required unless new incidents occur. I folded the paper once and set it beside the sink. My phone buzzed while I rinsed an apple for my daughter. I dried my hands slowly before picking it up. A message preview appeared. From her. Can we please talk now? I didn't open it. I turned the phone face down on the counter and left it there. In the afternoon, I walked my daughter to the park. She climbed. She laughed. She made a new friend and immediately forgot their name. On the bench, I watched parents scroll, talk, look up, look away. No one asked me anything anymore. No one needed clarification. The story had moved past conversation. When we got home, I opened the drawer where I'd kept everything. The screenshots, the flyers, the printed emails. I added the district letter on top. Then I closed the folder and slid it to the back of the drawer. I didn't lock it. I didn't need to. That evening, my ex dropped our daughter off. He walked her to the door, waited while she hugged me, then stood there awkwardly with his hands at his sides. She asked if you'd be at the school picnic next month, he said. I will be, I replied. He nodded. We won't. I didn't respond. He lingered, like he expected something else. An explanation. A reaction. I gave him neither. After he left, I helped my daughter with her homework, read her a story, turned off the light. She fell asleep with her hand curled around the edge of the blanket. In the kitchen, my phone was still where I'd left it. Screen dark. Silent. I picked it up, opened the message from her, and read it once. Then I locked the screen and set the phone back down without replying. Outside, a car passed slowly and kept going. The house settled. Pipes clicked. The refrigerator hummed. Nothing was unresolved anymore. Not because I explained, but because I didn't.